every person I felt I interacted with, I could learn something or the other, and they were brilliant in not just academics but like in 10 other things. So I feel like everybody who you talk to was very inspiring. You could learn a lot from them. So every conversation I had, I feel like most of my free time was spent in just talking to all of these brilliant people. It is another feeling to have a Nobel laureate teach you. So one of our classes was taken by a guy who was really famous in finance, and he was a manager of a hedge fund.
Hey, welcome back everyone. I'm Ishan Sharma, and in this podcast episode, I am joined with Juhi Singh. Juhi currently is working as a data scientist at Coursera, and she also did her master's from MIT University in finance. And in this particular episode, we'll be learning about how did she get into MIT, what was the application process like, and also we'll be learning from her what was her experience studying at BITS Pilani. She's also a BITS Pilani alumni, and so I hope you will learn a lot from this episode. Make sure that you watch till the very end, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like this video, and now let's get into the podcast episode. Hey Juhi, thank you so much for joining me here for this interview, and I'm really grateful that you accepted the invitation. And how are you doing there?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm in the Bay Area right now, and it's almost 8:40.
Yeah.
But the sun hasn't set yet, so yeah, it's an interesting time. Yeah. How
That's
are you
amazing.
doing?
I'm doing amazing. Right now, I'm having a lot of free time because again, we're not having any classes, so I get to do some new stuff that I wasn't able to do in my college. So yeah, it's been an exciting time right now back in home. Right. So in this talk, I wanted to learn from you. How did you go from BITS to MIT? Like, this is just really amazing for me to look at someone who has done something so incredible. So just want to learn from you. What was your experience like studying in BITS, and how did you transfer to MIT doing masters? So please tell me everything about that.
I would say it's definitely been a very incredible journey. It was something that I don't think I had actively planned for. It was something that just happened. I know it sounds very cliche, but that actually is the truth. But I would definitely say that being a part of BITS was actually what helped me land at MIT. Like, had I not gone to BITS, I don't think there was any chance that I would have been at MIT.
Yeah.
Because most of these colleges have a very holistic selection process. So they would look at which undergrad did you go to, what your GPA was, what did you do outside of your curriculum, what kind of work experience did you have. So I think in all of those, I would attribute all of that to probably BITS. Because I was applying for a finance degree because that was what I was really interested in. And in the US, there are two main schools which have two main schools of economic thought. There's one from MIT and then there's one from Chicago. So Chicago did not have a finance program, so I was really hell-bent on going to MIT for this program. And I feel like because of my experience at BITS and because of my GPA, as well as because of my work experience at Credit Suisse, I think these three factors contributed the most to me ending up at MIT.
What are your biggest highlights for being in BITS? Like, what was the experience like for you?
For me, I think it was just the diversity in the experience that I got in terms of the kind of people that I met, and the kind of activities that I never thought I would be doing. And I think one reason for that was because Pilani is such an isolated campus that there's not really much to do outside. So you have to get creative within whatever you're doing inside. So I feel like it was a forcing function to experience or to learn things by yourself and also to explore things. So I think that was pretty awesome. And I've always held this belief that it's not about academics also matter for sure, but it's not about what you learn in your courses that really count. It's also the kind of people that you meet and the kind of life lessons that you get during your college days, which actually help you out in the future. So I feel like all BITSians have this thing where no matter what kind of situation they are put in, they will figure out a way. And I feel that about myself in every step that I take, because if you look at my journey, I was a bachelor's in civil engineering with a master's in economics from BITS. Then I did my master's in finance from MIT, and then I ended up at data science. So I think at every point of time, I just wanted to optimize for whatever I had at the moment. And then I was like, I will figure out the rest of the things later on when I have to. So I think that attitude is something that BITS really teaches you. And that has definitely helped me in my career.
Okay, and please tell me about the process of applying to MIT after your fourth year in BITS. What was that process like?
So I actually was interning. So I had a 5-year program, and I was interning in Credit Suisse. And then I started working there. So I had a 1-year work experience basically before applying to MIT. I was just browsing through all the master's programs that were there, and I was very happy to find that MIT had one because of the economic school of thought that I spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
And I think their process involved writing a statement of purpose, getting a couple of recommendation letters, and then uploading your transcript. It also had some component of why MIT, why finance. So I think that it was a pretty introspective process, I feel, of writing an SOP. And I think that they have a really keen sense of when a statement of purpose is legitimate versus when it is something that that follows like a cookie cutter format. So I feel like I really put a lot of thought into writing why I wanted to pursue this degree. So I think that my SOP, when I look back at it now, it seems very naive, but I feel like it was very heartfelt, and it also helped highlighted my strengths, my weaknesses. So the first round was basically, I think the application process is pretty standard, that you have to have an SOP, you have to have your transcripts, you have to have your grades, recommendation letters. And I think I did a couple of projects in economics under two really good professors in economics. One was the current head of economics department and one was a former head. So I feel like the weight of their recommendations also mattered there a lot. So that was good. And then I also, because I was working at Credit Suisse, so I also had a recommendation from VP, who is recommending you, I think does carry a lot of weight. After that, MIT had a unique process of actually having in-person interviews as well. And I was fortunate that the interview happened in Mumbai, where I was located. And the head of the program herself had flown down to interview us. So that interview involved not really technical questions, but mostly to judge the person's personality and to figure out if they would be a good fit or not. So I feel like that interview went really well. And that's how I ended up at MIT.
That's an amazing story. And what did you think about the difference between MIT and BITS as to, like, you've done economics and then you've also done finance. So what do you think about the differences between the two universities?
I would say that actually, in terms of curriculum and academic process, I think BITS actually adopted a lot of MIT system. So there was a lot of flexibility. Like BITS offers a lot of flexibility, which a lot of other Indian colleges don't offer. And same is the case with MIT. Even our program was very flexible and you could take it into any directions. So I think that's where a lot of its similarities were present. In terms of differences, I feel like, I think most Indian institutes focus a lot on like grades or academic studies versus in the US, a lot of the focus is also on discussions and case studies and involvement of the student in classes. So I feel like that was pretty different, but it also helps you become a more well-rounded individual. So in that sense, I feel like it was not just about writing stuff in your exam paper and then getting grades out of it. And you really had to think, I feel like you really had to think in the MIT exams really hard because everybody there was very smart.
What was the environment like over there in MIT? Like, what were your peers like?
Super smart. Super smart people. Like, no, every person I felt I interacted with, I could learn something or the other, and they were brilliant in not just academics, but like in 10 other things. So I feel like everybody who you talk to was very inspiring. You could learn a lot from them. So every conversation I had, I feel like most of my free time was spent in just talking to all of these brilliant people. It is another feeling to have a Nobel laureate teach you. So one of our classes was taken by a guy who was really famous in finance, and he was a manager of a hedge fund. So I feel like, right from the professors to the students that you're surrounding yourself with, like I was pretty sure that some of the PhDs who were working there are going to go and win a Nobel Prize in the future. So I just wanted to absorb everything that I could in that program. So yeah, but it was definitely hard. If I could say, I would say that I hadn't worked that hard in the 4 years at BITS as I did in that 1 year at MIT. They really know how to make you work. Yeah.
All right, that's amazing. And what were your finances like? Because a lot of people worry about this in particular, like the fees and how would you finance that? So what was that for you?
So I would, to be honest, my program was on the expensive side because the finance program is in the B school. So I would say that my annual expense was like $100,000 because $75,000 was just the tuition fee, and then like 15 to 20 was just living expenses for the entire year. So
Mm-hmm.
it definitely was quite a lot. But the good thing about MIT was that it has its own federal credit union. So essentially, you could get a loan from MIT itself, and then you
Okay.
could pay it off. And the loan that you get from MIT's FCU, it had very low interest rates. So like if you get a loan from India, then it might, I'm not sure about the current rates, but at that time, I think it was close to 15%, which is
Mm-hmm.
extremely high. But
Yeah.
over there, for me, the rate was 6%, which was still fairly low. And
Mm-hmm.
because I was fairly young in my career, and I had faith that I would be able to repay it. So as soon as as I got my job, I was able to repay it. Depending on which institution you go to, the scholarship differs a lot. So I think MIT also had a scholarship process, but I was, there were far too many smarter people compared to me. So I feel like I didn't get the scholarship, but I was able to repay all of my loan, I think, within 1.5 years after getting my job. So I feel like net, I think it was a positive ROI. So for anybody who's going there to apply, one thing I would say is that if you are trying to take a loan, and I didn't really want to take a lot of money from my family just because I was like, I don't want to burden them anymore. And I
Yeah.
wanted to take a loan on myself,
Mm-hmm.
which also brings its own pressures, to be honest. Like I was
Yeah.
under a lot of stress to be able to repay it. And $100,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But try and get a loan in the US as much as possible. Because the interest rates there would be low and you won't have to deal with foreign exchange rates fluctuating a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if USD is appreciating a lot, then you'll have to, and if
Yeah.
you have to
Just like
come
right
back,
now, it's happening.
yeah, it's a lot of mess, I feel. And now I think it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Yeah, whenever you can, try and get a loan. Try and get a scholarship, obviously, but you should never compromise on the quality of your institution. Just
Mm-hmm.
because you're getting a scholarship in some other this thing, because these things don't matter that much in the long run. Like initially,
Okay.
even I was really scared that how am I going to pay a debt of $100,000. But
Mm-hmm.
now, like once you cross that, or once you pay it off, then it doesn't really make that much of a difference.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. And after you've actually graduated from MIT, what is the, like, when you put MIT on your resume, what does that tell to someone who's recruiting you? Like, what is that experience like? What do they think about you when they first see your resume?
I think both BITS and MIT are a lifelong brand in terms of
Yeah.
then you don't have to prove your smartness. That everybody just
Mm-hmm.
assumes you're smart. I think it's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
But I would say that even people at MIT, they worked really hard to be where they were, and they continue to work hard even after they graduated. And after
Mm-hmm.
a while, it actually doesn't matter. So it's not
Okay.
that only people from MIT get successful. It's like you still have to work as hard as you were working during your grad school days. But
Mm-hmm.
it is something that I will carry with the rest, with me for the rest of my life, and it
Yeah.
definitely makes me very proud of being an MIT alum. But
Mm-hmm.
I still have to work hard every day. Yeah,
That's
because
amazing.
the place
Yeah.
where I am at, like for every MIT, there'll also be a Stanford and a Harvard, and most of the times, the higher you rise, I feel like even the people that you surround yourself with, their quality keeps on kind of increasing. So now all of my friends are like Stanford graduates, especially in the Bay Area. So yeah, with them, there's nothing special about being from MIT because they're all from Stanford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That should do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and like this video. And the part 2 of this interview is coming on Wednesday or Tuesday, right? So stay tuned for that as well. In that particular episode, we'll be talking about how did she become a data scientist, and her whole journey from masters from MIT to working at Coursera. So make sure that you watch that video too. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.